I know what you're thinking. You're looking at Ubisoft and Konami and Electronic Arts and pretty much everybody else right now adding NFTs into their games and thinking, this has gotta be a scam, right? This is a bamboozle. This is a grift. Well, you're not wrong. Again, as I said in the previous video, you're not gonna see crypto or NFTs being used for anything other than trash for some time, and when it's not gonna be trash, it's not gonna be from a company that already makes games in the traditional blockbuster AAA kind of way, because that would require them to understand what this thing's about, and they don't. It is not, how you would say, in their nature to understand. They merely imitate and consume. That is all they're ever capable of doing, because that is all that they are. So as we prepare for a new round of grifting, I'm here to remind you that grifting, scamming, bamboozling isn't something new in video games, and I'm not talking about all those free CSGO gun skins you could just get instantly by clicking on this link that some random yabo sent to you over Steam. I mean, it's gotta be legit. Who would lie about this stuff? Oh, my account's gone. Well, I guess I'll learn my... Oh my god, somebody's giving me a free game. All I have to do is click on this link. So anyway, that's how my nephew's account got stolen. But apart from those kinds of scams, we also have scams that are simply put forth by the industry itself, by studios, by developers, well, mostly by publishers, sometimes developers that will even defend their grifts on, you know, shows like Invisible Walls on game trailers and not get any pushback, or very little pushback. This is the top 10, 18! There were fewer, but I kept adding to them, and when I went to edit this thing, you know, actually make the video, I added more. So this is the top 18 video gaming grifts, scams, and bamboozles. A show where we will go over some of the biggest grifts we've ever been, well, bamboozled into. I mean, it's not like we had much choice in some of them. They were there, they were the standard. We just ate the dog food and liked it, even if we didn't. Now, these may not be in a particular order of gravity, since there's a lot of them and some of them are equally reprehensible. That being said, let's get it started with number 18. Skins. There was a time back in ancient days when skins were something that you could just add to pretty much any game. Well, not any game. Games that were built in a way such that you could modify them and, you know, add anything you wanted to them. And what happened was that people used to make skins, you know, for characters, for weapons and stuff, and they could share them, they could modify them, they could do pretty much anything they wanted with them. And at some point, Valve came up with the idea of, you know what, maybe the people that make skins should be paid for, you know, their stuff, their work. Why not make a marketplace where people can get rewarded for that stuff? And it was nice, it was sweet. Anybody could make a skin and get paid for it. And hey, on custom servers, you could just use any skin you wanted. I mean, it's not like this feature would get locked out of the community altogether and we would be in a situation of simply the company selling skins. Oh yeah, that's where we are now. Now, skins, cosmetics is the most innocuous thing possible in video games, but that's where it starts. That's where the grift starts. By taking something that anybody could make and putting it behind a paywall and only having the company be able to make that thing. Again, as grifts go, this is at the lowest possible tier, and it has resulted in some actually nice things, as Valve has done, or as Grinding Gear Games has done, where it basically supports that entire Path of Exile thing by letting people purchase angel wings and stuff, and sometimes inventory slots. But you don't really have the same freedom you used to with just modifying your skins as you wanted to, because everything is on a centralized server now, and if it's not on the server, then it doesn't exist. It's a cheat, it's a hack, it's something that doesn't belong. It is modified content and could get you banned. Thankfully, in single-player games, this is not yet the norm. Could be one day. A lot of companies wish it were already, which is why some of them are starting to go the route of having their game files encrypted and then ran in a VM that also runs the Nuvo and all other stuff make sure that, you're not owning your own game. That's we'll talk about that a bit more further on. Number 17. Gaming furniture. You know how you can't play a video game unless you're on a gaming chair, at a gaming desk, or on a gaming couch? Well, you can. I know this may be a shock to some people, but you absolutely can, in spite of what the marketing for various terrible products would have you believe. Gaming chairs, gaming desks, and all other sorts of furniture that is gaming related tends to be horrible, trash, and quite expensive, in spite of it being incredibly cheap to manufacture. It's guaranteed profit. It's a grift. It's an absolute grift. Chairs, especially chairs that are made to resemble bucket seats, the kind that you would use in a racing car, which have no purpose at a desk. They are terrible, horrible. Just get an office chair. I got one. Look, the cat likes it as well. You have no idea how beautiful this thing is. You don't sweat anymore. It's actually comfortable to sit in. It's adjustable. Sure, it costs a bit more than the average office chair I used to use, but it's still cheaper than most gaming chairs. And don't even get me started on gaming desks. Actually, get me started on gaming desks. What's the point of having a gaming desk? Do they all have USB ports like built into them? Can I fit my PC into them like those Leon Lee case desks? No, they're just tables with a price upwards of $300. For that price, that table, well, actually I can't say what I expect that table to give me and remain monetized. Though that would be an idea for a desk that would absolutely make billions. Would it be safe? Probably not, and neither are some of these gaming chairs either. And until people catch on, they will still be everywhere and they will be filling up landfills for years and years to come because they also tend to break quite easily. To reiterate, you don't need a specific gaming seat or surface to play on. Though I have to say I'm surprised a bit that there aren't more gaming couches out there, since on the console side there is the old vision of kicking back in your couch with some brewskis and some buds and tearing up some Call of Duty, hell yeah, and chugging some Mountain Dew. Speaking of which, number 16, gaming food. Well, food and beverages. This isn't just a grift, this is borderline dangerous. Why do you need gamer fuel? You're sitting down on a computer or at a console in front of a TV. You're not really wasting all that much energy. Why would you need to intake such high amounts of sugar and often salt, to do what? To bone the noobs and teabag them? You could do that without scarfing down Cheetos and caffeine-rich drinks that are sold to children as gaming-enhancing substances. I think the only company that actually got gaming food right ever was Ubisoft, because it used to bundle Beyond Good and Evil with cheese. Now granted, it was highly processed cheese, which not really great for you, but you weren't expected to treat the cheese as gaming fuel. No, it just came with a game. But much like gaming furniture, gaming food is a mainstay of the industry. It's there. You get XP boosts by chugging Mountain Dew and eating Cheetos and Doritos and all sorts of other stuff they stuffed corn into. America is obsessed with corn. They put it everywhere. The server that this video is hosted on in the US probably contains corn or is powered by it at some place. Cooled by, I don't know. It's everywhere. Number 15. Game review scores. Back in the olden times, reviews were usually found in magazines published by, the publishers of the games that were being reviewed. It was about as conflict of interest-y as you can get. And one of the ideas they came up with around that time was the score. A fundamentally broken idea that you could somehow discern the quality of an entire game based entirely on one number. Now sometimes they would have many numbers, for various components, which is, well, a better idea. Not saying it's a perfect one, because there are some components of a game that are not quantifiable that way, but it's still better than having a single goddamn number. But that's the idea that propagated all throughout history, and everybody used scores. And the score was a grift. The score was a scam. It existed solely to cause controversy, to propagate PR and marketing, to get people riled up and argue over differences of 0.2 between games from different platforms, or from games on the same platform, or from different games on the same platform, or from everything and everything possible. In the age of the internet, for close to 15 years, until people started dropping review scores, that number existed simply as clickbait, or to, not pay developers the money they were owed, because Metacritic's aggregator weighs some scores differently than others, and the result is that Obsidian nearly shut down. Thankfully, at least in the last couple of years, people have been a bit more understanding that a single number is a stupid way to judge a video game. Now, there's still the Steam reviews, which are basically still just a number when it is easily influenced by people not liking who developed Star Control Origins, or a game having the same name as another game. But I'll probably save fixing Steam reviews for a different show. Number 14. Arcade difficulty levels. This goes out especially to those who say that back in my day, video games used to be hard, not easy like games are today. That's why I love Dark Souls and I eat poop. Well, I got something to say to you. You know why games used to be hard back in the old days, I mean the arcade days? They were hard to steal your money. The games were not made for you to finish them easily. They were made to have you spend as much money as possible. And they stayed that way in some aspects, even when they made the transition to home video games. Early adventure games, or games that involve puzzles in some way, are very much guilty of this, because they were expecting you to call the Hent line, or to buy the latest issue of Nintendo Power to see how the hell you do that thing in Simon's Quest, or whatever Castlevania 2 was called. You know, the one with the tornado. This was a grift. They made those games needlessly difficult. You could even see how needlessly in games like Bad Dudes vs. Dragon Ninja. The second boss is really hard to beat on the arcade, but on the home console it's easy. Maybe it's even too easy on the home console. There was no balance. There was no, hey, let's make it satisfying. No, it had to be super hard to get people to spend money, and those who were already good enough could, adapt quickly to the game before it killed them. Those who were actually really amazingly good at games, yeah, you know what happened to those people? They got whisked off to fighting the goddamn Kodan War, and were never heard from again. This difficulty thing has kind of stuck around in various forms, as the removal of cheats has been a constant thing in video games, where you're expected to purchase things to, make the game a bit more bearable. Which leads us to number 13. EXP boosters, time savers, and progression being terrible. You'd expect this from some free-to-play Korean MMO that is funded solely by having its players hate leveling up so much that they will buy with real money XP boosters that will get them double, triple, quadruple XP for a short amount of time, that they can use that to grind and hopefully at some point reach a level where they can actually enjoy the game instead of feeling like it's a job that they're not being paid for. But it's not just those crappy games that I've played hundreds of. Even the big AAA games do that. The pioneer of this, I believe, was Assassin's Creed. Because if you remember Assassin's Creed's 4 progression, or actually basically any Ubisoft game progression, you have to collect like 5 bear asses and 6 shark nipples to make a wallet that holds 5 extra coins, and then you're gonna have to get some lizard gizzards and maybe like 12 weasel wieners and stuff like that to make a wallet that holds 2 extra coins, and other stupid stuff. And if you thought that was tedious, that limited your enjoyment of the game, that was a roadblock that you had to go through to actually play the game as it was meant to, then tough luck, unless you were on PC and knew how to use Cheat Engine or another memory editor. Otherwise, hey, look at all this DLC we have. DLC for wood, for iron, for bare asses. You could buy it all with real money and actually skip over the game itself, over the progression, because we broke it. We made it purposefully horrible so you would buy these. And this is something that isn't new. This is something I saw a developer boasting about on the Invisible Walls podcast on Game Trailers 15 years ago. It was a developer on Call of Duty. It was about Modern Warfare 2, and they were saying, hey, maybe the progression system where you unlock weapons is becoming a bit, long, and people don't get to unlock the weapon they like, and wouldn't it be easier to just have them all unlocked from the start, or at least after a short while? And a developer, I think it was a developer, not from the publisher side, outright said, we'll do what we want to, you don't get to decide that. And I'm not sure anymore because, memories degrade over time and they get added to, but I'm pretty sure they specified something along the lines of, so what if you have to pay a bit more to skip over that? Well, that's been the norm for many years, and in single player games as well. Some exceptions though must be noted in regards to multiplayer games. Titanfall lets you purchase any ability and weapon you want from the get-go or unlock them like a bajillion times if you reset your character. It's actually not an issue as it is for some other games, especially MMOs. Hey, by the way, remember Resident Experience in World of Warcraft? You know how that became a thing, right? They gave you an XP penalty if you played too much, and they rebranded the part of the game where you didn't have the penalty as Rested XP instead of the normal game. And now they sell you max level characters, or close to max level. Fun! Number 12. Loot boxes. I remember a few years ago while I was on Twitter, one of the worst places to be mentally in the cyber world, Facebook is much worse, seeing so many people defend loot boxes, saying that, hey, that's additional content that you're getting, for free. Asterisk. How can you object to getting more content? Quite simply, because loot boxes are a scam, they are a grift, they are an amazingly profitable bamboozle. Are they gambling? Yes, they are. Here's the thing about loot boxes. They came out of Chinese and Korean MMOs, where they would sell a mystery box, with real money. And in it, well, there could be anything. There could be one of the most valuable pieces of equipment in the game. They could be XP boosters that would make, the progression bearable. Like you could have skins in them, cookie skins that you could only really get by paying even more money than you paid for the loot box. But most often inside a loot box you just find some crap, but it tickled that primitive part of your brain that doesn't understand things, the part of your brain that created God, that thinks that, oh, if I just wear red underwear, I'll be protected from hexes. The part of your brain that makes connections between things that are not connected. And that part of your brain tells you, if I jump on one leg while opening this loot box, then I will become a king among men. Now, those kinds of MMOs were, when you went into them, you kind of knew, well, at least people who were over 16, which is like 1% of the player base, knew what they were getting into, that this was a wretched place of scum and villainy, then you should not trust anything in there. But then loot boxes started showing up every place else. Valve again was a pioneer of this in the AAA gaming space with Counter-Strike and Team Fortress 2 and Dota 2, though I can't really place the entire blame on Valve because freemium games, not even grifty games, but browser-based mobile-ish games, we're leaning heavily on this as an adaptation of the idea of the card pack from another big grift that is Magic the Gathering, though perhaps there have been other card games that did the same thing before it. And the result was, with these virtualized card packs, with these loot boxes, that somebody always got suckered. Now it could have been you, it could have been somebody else, but somebody always got suckered into either buying them or buying the key to open them. And you may say to yourself, well, I've never bought a Team Fortress 2 loot box. That would be stupid. Now, excuse me, I'm going back to playing Hearthstone and not telling my spouse how much money I spent on card packs. Loot boxes were a preview of the whole NFT crypto craze. They were the blueprint, if you will. What's happening now with the NFTs is because you all embraced loot boxes. Oh, you may say, well, I didn't. Individually, maybe no. You all as a collective did. That includes me as well. And I know this because governments had to step in to get them to be less crappy, to maybe indicate the odds, to make them a bit less of a scam. The government of China even did this. You know, China, the place where every knockoff and every horrible, non-functional scam of a product is made. Okay, not all of them, some are made in Romania. They said, whoa, 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 slow down, Satan, maybe you're grifting too hard. And when governments became involved, the video games industry tried its darndest to astroturf the whole subject and make it seem like it's the big bad brother trying to clamp down on freedom. Eagle screech in the background, when it was just a bunch of companies being asked to act responsibly, which, let's face it, you know, they really do not want to, because acting responsibly would probably mean, you know, firing some execs that maybe did some wrong things to other employees. That's against company policy, you know, being responsible or making amends or respecting your audience. Or humans in general. Again, you are basically a walking dollar sign to these companies, and they will bleed you dry as much as possible. And loot boxes were an amazing way to do that. Until people started using them for gambling, you know, with CS bets and the thing with the skins as well. And they realized, oh, we kind of created a monster. Well, we knew we created a monster, but now somebody else controls that monster and we cannot allow that. Grifts are only allowed when we do them. Though that does not mean that the loot boxes are gone, they're just not as prominent as they used to be. They're still raking in mega bucks. I mean, the FIFA Ultimate Team, that's the name of the game mode in Romanian that comes to mind. And plenty of games are just built around giving you loot boxes instead of a progression mechanic, because how else can you train people to expect everything to be a loot box in case there's a resurgence? Number 11. Premium ammo. Show of hands who initially thought the idea of premium ammo was gonna go away like in 5 seconds flat because nobody would accept such a thing, and then realized, oh my god, it's everywhere and we'll never get rid of it. Premium ammo is a concept that should have not existed in the first place. There should have been some gaming authority out there that said, hey, that's kind of anti-competitive, that is anti-consumer, but who's gonna do that? We don't have anything like that. And when a group of people does band together and, you know, contact an authority from a nation that relates to consumer protection, like what happened to Steam a while ago about reselling video games, there is pushback from the gaming audience itself, and everything fails. Just the sheer concept of premium ammo is bananas. Ammo that deals more damage than the ammo that you have normally in the game. Oh sure, in some cases you can actually buy that premium ammo with in-game currency, just not a lot of it, because you're expected to buy it with real money, so that the game can keep going. It's actually not about that anymore. It hasn't been about that for a while. It's so that people can make bajillions of dollars on the basis of it's only fun if either everybody has premium ammo or nobody does. Otherwise, a lot of people will have a bad time, a very bad time. But hey, at least everybody gets to use the same weapons. Number 10, expiring guns. This was a thing in Chinese and Korean MMOs. You could either buy a gun permanently to unlock it, or you could rent it basically. Have the gun expire after a while if you don't keep paying for it. You know, pay with real money. But then Electronic Arts used it. Electronic Arts added it to its games. Games like Battlefield Heroes, that Team Fortress 2 knockoff that died because it had rentable weapons that expired instead of, actually letting people get their guns. This is beyond skins. This is beyond having ammo that performs a bit better. This is beyond making progression horrible. This is you not having the same tools to play the game as people that spend money on this thing. And when I say people, I usually mean kids who somehow have access to their parents' finances. That you could probably say that, hey, that's not the game's fault, the parents should be better parents. Well, if the parents could be better parents, the world would not be terrible, now would it? People that had good parents would not have thought up expiring guns or implemented them in the first place. They wouldn't have become grifters or worked for Electronic Arts. Number 9. Map DLCs. Now, here's the thing. DLC in itself is not a bad thing, and getting more maps for a video game is also not a bad thing, but when you put them both together, well, you get the map packs that you used to find in all those CDs for Quake and Unreal Tournament and a lot of games back in the day. Hey, that's a good thing. So why is it here? Well, it's here because at some point Bobby Kotick actually, decided, hey, 2 maps, 3 maps, let's slap $15 on them and sell them. And you need to own the map pack to play on it against other people who own the map pack. Otherwise, you don't access those maps, and that's kind of gonna segregate the player base. But hey, there's a lot of them, so who cares? Sure, making those maps costs money. Also, your game is making $1 billion a year, so you have the money to pay them. It's called supporting the video game, not wringing out more money from the people who already bought it. This grift went on for over a decade. It's starting to not be a thing anymore. I mean, even Electronic Arts said, yeah, we're not gonna do map DLC anymore, everybody gets the maps. Goddamn Ubisoft didn't do it. Goddamn Ubisoft released the maps for everybody for Rainbow Six Siege. Or the operators had an exclusivity period of 1 week, but that was okay, that was acceptable. Then they screwed up the game in other ways, and I haven't touched it in like half a year, but I may do so at one point and see if it's the darkest timeline or not. Map DLCs. They weren't even for shooters. Grid 2 absolutely destroyed its multiplayer by having not only track DLCs but car DLCs that you could not play against. If somebody had a DLC car and you did not have that DLC, you could not play together in the same race. And I played Grid 2 multiplayer back in the day. It was segregated, leading to, well, there not being as many people in multiplayer as you thought there would be. And when they were, you couldn't play together. And it sucked hard. But again, thankfully, this is going away. People have realized that, oh yeah, that sucks. That's bad. Why did we ever accept this? I don't know. Number 8. Pre-orders. Now, for video games, a pre-order will get you nothing. Now, actually, let me rephrase that. Back in the olden days when people used to buy games in physical stores and there was such a thing as scarcity and limited supply, you would pre-order a game and basically reserve that copy for yourself. Now, I'm not entirely sure how it worked for everybody else, but in our country, you paid for the game up front. I keep hearing that in in, some American places, you would pre-order the game by paying some of the money, like $5 or something, and then the game would come and then you could either purchase it or not. But in the digital age, when there is no such thing as the limited supply of a game, this is stupid. This is absolutely irrational. I mean, sometimes they will bundle that pre-order with something extra, like a map DLC or a day one DLC for more money than the actual game costs, because they will quite often not be available for, like a discount. Now, if it's a discount, if they actually let you buy the game for cheaper early on, sure, that's when a pre-order would make sense. It does give you a tangible advantage. Otherwise, I'm still amazed that these exist. The golden rule, the last commandment of Total Biscuit, do not pre-order games, is not being listened to. It's being disregarded, and there will be consequences for us all. Number 7. Day 1 DLC and crippled games. So here's the thing, when a game is close to release, a different phase of its development is in effect than what was when development was beginning. Other people are involved doing other things, so the people that were involved at the beginning, don't just twiddle their thumbs, they actually have to do something. Then maybe they make more content, maybe they start work on an expansion, maybe they start work on DLC, maybe they start work on day 1 DLC that's somehow ready by the time the game ships. Day 1 DLC is a grift because that thing was already done. There is no such thing as Day 1 DLC that adds story elements, story characters, pivotal story characters even, that was made, in the last 2 months we scrabbled together and made this and playtested it and balanced it and added 50,000 lines of dialogue just last night. Yeah, Terry worked so hard on that, last night, writing 5 million lines of code and dialogue, and so it'll be ready for today, for the release day. Yeah, that's a grift. That's Electronic Arts BioWare bullshit right there. They did it with Dragon Age 2, they did it with Mass Effect 3, they do it with every game, and it's horrible, especially when it is content that was cut from the game just so it can be sold later on. A game being crippled so it can be cut up into little pieces. It's the Mona Lisa meme with, pre-order DLC, something DLC, and day 1 DLC. And if you're wondering, well, what are the people that worked on that first part of the development gonna do now that their part was, over months and months ago? Just twiddle their thumbs? No, they're gonna make content, but not day 1 content that was supposed to be in the game in the first place, but later on content that enhances the game, an expansion maybe, or a DLC that makes sense, that adds something to the game, like an expansion or an add-on, not a DLC that adds city maps to a game about big stomping robots, which is something that both Harebrained and Piranha did, both of them, to their MechWarrior/Battletech games. They added as DLC maps related to cities, which kinda sucked. But the whole idea of crippling games goes even deeper than day 1 DLC. I would have made this as a separate number, but I forgot about it and just remembered, so I'm putting it here. Take The Sims for example. They re-release the same game every 5 or so years, 6 years, 7 years or something, and they always reset it to 0. They erase all the DLCs, they don't put those into the base game just so they could sell them again. And Paradox does that a tiny bit with its games too, though to be fair, Paradox's games are actually cheaper than most other games, and they get content constantly over 11 years, which is the reason why people keep buying the games and the new content. Number 6. Platform exclusive DLC. Okay, I get Spider-Man being just the PlayStation version of what the hell that thing is, because Sony owns Spider-Man or some other, visual related thing in a video game, but platform exclusive story DLC is an absolute goddamn grift. If I want to know how Prince of Persia, the 2008 one that was actually kind of nice. I can't do that on PC. I'm gonna have to buy a console and then the game and then the DLC to figure out how it ended. Same thing, well, actually it wasn't kind of an ending, there was a side story. Same thing with Tomb Raider Underworld, you know, the last good Tomb Raider game. This kind of stuff is absolutely unacceptable, but we accepted it a couple of times because how would we have complained by saying to Ubisoft, well, we're not gonna buy your DLC anymore if you don't let us buy this DLC, which they're already not selling. And anyway, if Gilbon's whole shtick was, well, 95% of people are gonna pirate our games on PC, so may as well shit on them, which is usually something reserved for the employees at Ubisoft. I think there's a special room for that where he well, actually, rumors, hearsay, allegedly. Platform exclusive story DLC is a terrible idea, and I could have probably just have had one single number for all the various forms of DLC, but hey, we're taking a granular approach here. Number 5. Multiplayer access subscriptions. In the modern day, when you subscribe to PlayStation Plus or Xbox Games Gold Now Pass, you get stuff like free games. Isn't that nice? And well, they're not free, you pay a subscription for them, but you get games. That is so nice. Hey, you know what you used to get? Access to the game you goddamn bought. You couldn't play multiplayer unless you bought a separate subscription. Oh, it's only $60 a year. It's cheap. You had to pay $60 a year, you know, basically an entire game to be able to play the games you just bought. Microsoft came up with this absolute and total grift. Then Sony said, hey, not in our yard. Yeah, everybody does whatever. You're free here. And then they did it as well because, baby, that's a cash register ka-ching every 5 seconds in perpetuity. It's so profitable that they can just give you games permanently within those $5 or whatever it costs now. Microsoft tried that on PC as well with the first version of games for Windows Live. If you wanted achievements, if you wanted a multiplayer in Gears of War, you had to fork up some money, you know, for a system that was so badly built, so badly ported that it didn't have mouse support on PC. This coming from Microsoft, the developers of Windows, and the Microsoft mouse. The Microsoft Sidewinder mice were nice. This was a thing. Having to pay extra to access multiplayer games, this still is a thing, and people have accepted it. Much like number 4, DRM. I've said this a bajillion times. DRM means you don't own your games. DRM, if it's, implemented using VMs and de novo and encryption and all that jazz, means that you cannot mod your games, means that the games can do like anything, absolutely anything on your system, and you'd have no idea what they were doing. They could be snooping around, they could be mining crypto, they could be, used by Ubisoft to launder drug money or something. I mean, not that I'm accusing Ubisoft of doing something like that. They probably aren't. Activision is. I think Activision is probably guilty of that. A lot of coke parties. Anyway, DRM, terrible idea, will not go away. DRM has, through its implementation, fundamentally changed culture. Because here's the thing, on consoles, you've had since day one the concept of renting. Go to a rental store, pay a small amount of money not to buy the full game, and just rent a game for a few days and then return it if you don't like it, or rent it again and finish it. It was a beautiful concept that on PC we had no access to because the games were locked to a single device or maybe 3 devices. And then Steam came along and it was just one owner and it could be played on multiple devices by the same person. I mean, or at least one person at the same time. Imagine if you could have rented PC video games. You couldn't. We just pirated them. We had stores, computer stores that had catalogs of games that we pirated from them. We paid them to buy the games illegally because it was the cheaper option. And sure, those stores got fined and we were left without games because we couldn't afford to pay like the big bucks, the $60. We couldn't pay less, we couldn't rent them because of the DRM. Now sure, on the console side, things weren't peachy for the publishers. They hated that idea. They tried so much to fight against it, to implement it the way that things are done on PC, on consoles as well, and well, they kind of succeeded now that everything's online type of thing. They kind of killed the second-hand market that way, which is again something that we didn't have on PC. No rentals, no second-hand, because once the game's active, good luck getting Star Force to deactivate the game without setting fire to your PC. Which reminds me, number 3, Project $10. Electronic Arts had this idea. Hey, you know how on PC we shoot people in the face if they try to sell their games or, rent them? Yeah, let's do that to console gamers as well. Let's just chop off a feature of the game like multiplayer and hold it hostage if they rent or, buy the game secondhand. They just pay us $10 and they have the full game again. It's what I think Americans would call double dipping, because in the US there's the whole first sale doctrine, which means that after the first sale, the manufacturer can go half a bowl of dongs. It's not their product anymore. It's the product of whoever bought it, and they can do with it whatever they want to. They can even sell it again. But the thing is that video games are not products, they are licenses. It's how the whole software industry manages to grift the entire goddamn planet over and over again by having things be a license instead of a product. So for years, Electronic Arts tried to get people to pay $10 to access features that they would have had access to previously, before the Project $10 initiative, which they have dropped. They've decided, yeah, maybe that wasn't smart. That seems to have caused some animosity. And also, yeah, pretty much everything now is digitally signed, attached to a single account, and there's no way to sell the games on that account. Would have been if, I don't know, those French guys sued Valve successfully. So there's no point in doing the grift anymore. The bigger grift, the DRM grift, is ongoing. See, it's new grifts supplanting previous grifts by building, improving, I would dare say, upon their griftiness, making them even more griftable, more grifty, more scammy, more bamboozly. Which leads us to number 2, matchmaking. You know how you kill a multiplayer game? By having only matchmaking in it, having no dedicated community-run servers. Look at Titanfall 2. Northstar basically saved it. If you want to play Titanfall 2, get the Northstar mod, which lets you access community servers, because the real ones, the official ones, don't work because they're being attacked constantly, and Electronic Arts does not care. Matchmaking is an absolute grift. It is one of the worst things ever implemented, and of course it comes from consoles, it comes from Xbox, from Microsoft. Of course it's a horrible goddamn idea. How could it not be? Oh, it makes you play with with people of similar. That's not how it works. That's never how it worked. It's a random absolute clusterfunk, and it is trash. It is a grift. It just means that you can no longer play with people that you want to play with. You're gonna be stuck with some random yabos. You're gonna create or participate in a toxic culture that ever will be ever devolving and constantly going to new extremes until you just want to make sure that maybe that virus spreads to the entire planet. And by taking away community servers, by just having matchmaking be the thing that everybody uses to engage with multiplayer, then you're enabling pretty much everything I've said in this show up until now, apart from the gaming, food and furniture, though that is built into the marketing of multiplayer games that are based on matchmaking, lest we all forget the Doritos Pope. And the number 1 grift is actually one of the newer ones. $70 video games. Yes, inflation. Yes, I know games at one point used to be more expensive. Yeah, Bobby Kotick is probably gonna go away from Activision with $1 billion. I ask you, does that sound like a gaming industry that has trouble making money? You know who has trouble making money? The people developing video games. So buy games from, smaller developers. Play their games. Pay them. Don't just go on Steam reviews and say, well, this game has a girl in it, so I'm not gonna play it. It's terrible. 0 stars. Or, oh no, the developer of this game said something nasty to some e-celebrity I fetishize. So now I'm leaving bad reviews on all of their games, and will do so in perpetuity, because I have no life. You should read the Star Control Origins reviews. Some of them are funny. Games costing $70, that's gonna have a lot of executives buying new yachts and contributing to the death of the entire planet. Is it gonna raise wages? Hell no. Is it going to lead to better video games? Oh hell no. Is it going to benefit us in any way? Absolutely not. This is just Bobby Kotick's parting gift. Yeah, I know Square Enix kinda did it first, but Bobby has been pushing for this for a decade. And we're there, we're here. €70, $70 video games. Golly, not even the Super Deluxe Extra Edition that has a DLC that was already cut from the game and sold separately, but no, it's the base game, $70. The grift keeps grifting and it's getting griftier. The levels of bamboozlement are off the charts. It's never going to stop. As long as there's a AAA industry where investors can rake in billions after Microsoft buys a company, as long as there's investors that continuously want quarterly revenues going up and up and up, the grifts will never stop. But this show has. So that was it for the top 16 or so video gaming grifts. If I missed one, please mention it in the comments. I would like to give a special mention to wokeness, which is the grift of saying that you're in favor of radical social change that will improve the lives of marginalized people, but not actually being in favor of any of that. I mean, that would cut into the profits. Here, have a token. Have a nice little token. Look, it's angering some Nazis. We did a good thing. Now I'm gonna fire you. Why? So I can make $100 million as a bonus for being so woke. I don't care that you're a marginalized person, that I'm marginalizing even further now, because this is a grift. It always is. And it gives us good PR and causes controversy, which leads to more PR. And of course, one special mention must go also to collector's editions that cost over $100 and don't contain the actual game itself. Because Hope Satan only knows how hard it is to shove a 12, 14, 16 character code on the inside of a $200 box of plastic junk. Goodbye.